You're watching Euronews Tonight. Now to the US, and Saturday's shooting at a supermarket in Buffalo has increased pressure on social media companies. A white supremacist gunman killed 10 people and wounded 3 others in an attack that was initially live-streamed on Twitch. Matthew in the Cube has more on this.
Alistair, as you say, Saturday's deadly shooting at a Buffalo supermarket has raised a lot of questions. US authorities facing criticism for failing to take action against a, quote, racially motivated violent extremist who had previously shared conspiracy theories and his anti-immigrant beliefs online. But social media companies are also in the spotlight, given that the gunman initially live-streamed his attack on the gaming platform Twitch. It's not the first time in recent years that the shooting has been filmed and shared on social media. You may remember the terrorist attacks in Christchurch, New Zealand and Halle, Germany in 2019. Twitch say that they initially took down the Buffalo livestream within 2 minutes, but versions of the attack online continue to appear on social media and they remain visible. Immediately after the shooting, the state governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, said that social media companies need to be more vigilant about content that appears on their platforms. And she said it was inexcusable that the video hadn't been taken down within a second. Well, here in Europe, this has also generated conversation where, of course, the EU is debating more regulations to force companies to better moderate content. In an interview with the Associated Press, the Executive Vice President of the European Commission, Margrethe Vestager, said that while it was difficult to fully take down live streams like this, she said, Alistair, that the Buffalo shooting shows that EU administrators need to continue working with big tech companies to ensure that any future broadcasts of killings can be shut down quickly.
Matthew, thanks very much. Matthew Holroyd. Thanks for watching Euronews Tonight. Stay tuned. Plenty more to come throughout the evening.
Within year, growth would be in negative territory.
Gas is still flowing from Europe to Russia, but Brussels will be hoping it can help cushion any possible impact on the EU's huge economy. Christopher Pitcher's Euronews, Brussels.
Preliminary results from parliamentary elections in Lebanon appear to show major losses for Hezbollah and its allies as the country grapples with economic turmoil. As votes continue to be counted, early indications suggest a low voter turnout and breakthroughs for smaller independent parties. At least 11 seats are expected to go to reform politicians, which experts say reflects the anger felt by voters towards the ruling elite. The Iran-backed Hezbollah and its allies secured a majority in 2018, but financial collapse and the Beirut port blast has prompted growing anti-establishment sentiment in the country. Well, let's cross to Beirut now and speak to our correspondent, Shona Murray. Shona, the final results have yet to be determined, but we're hearing about an interesting shift in the political landscape. What is the state of play at the moment?
Yeah, I think the official results are coming in, and it does appear, as you mentioned there, Alistair, that there's been modest gains for opposition parties, which, as you said there, comes as no surprise. We've seen a lot of anti-establishment movements in the past couple of years here in Lebanon, because the economic and financial situation really is one of the most dire in this part of the world. On top of that, we saw that atrocious explosion in the port of Beirut, where there hasn't been any full investigations taking place. So the mood of the country is extremely low. And I spoke to lots of voters over the past few days who told me they simply wouldn't be coming out because they didn't think their vote would make a difference. That's why you have a turnout of around 41%. 2018 it was 49%. But what we do see is that Hezbollah will lose its majority, which is an interesting shift. There has been a drop in support for some of the major parties, the Sunni and the Shia major parties, but obviously Hezbollah losing that majority will come as a bit of a surprise because a lot of their voters are normally quite disciplined. Now, I caught up with Mohammed Ali Haj Ali earlier today from Carnegie, and he told me that there was a bit of intimidation and violence in some of the voting centres.
We've seen cases of beatings of the other side. Opposing candidates have been attacked. They've been intimidated. We've seen representatives of these candidates in voting centers also being intimidated, attacked. And also we've seen Hezbollah minders showing up with elderly going into the voting booths and helping them, vote for the right choice, a choice that they deem is right.
That's Mohammed Haj Ali speaking to me earlier, saying that there was some intimidation, which we saw reports of in certain count centres, but that wasn't widespread, I should say, Alistair, having gone to a lot of the centres myself. But it did happen. Alistair?
Now, we understand the EU has sent a delegation of election observers. What more can you tell us about what they've been doing?
That's right, about 167 EU observers. Most of them have been here since March, really just preparing for the election, speaking to candidates, speaking to the media, making sure that the media can report freely, speaking to candidates about the level playing field, having a look at the constituencies, the polling booths, monitoring the votes as they're being brought to polling centres. And then for the next few days and overnight, they've been monitoring the counting and the tabulation of those votes. They don't interfere in any way. They just watch and then they make an assessment. The preliminary assessment will take place some stage tomorrow. But in the meantime, I did catch up with a few of them, and they believe that their presence alone does help the elections take place in a fair and free way.
I think they play an important role. Of course, we are just one puzzle in this mosaic. Already our presence can deter some violations, some irregularities. I think our presence is important for the transparency of the process.
And one of the EU election observers speaking to me earlier today at one of the count centres, where they'll be monitoring over the next week or so how the election's being counted and then give an assessment in the next coming weeks. Alistair?
Shona, thanks very much. Shona Murray in Beirut. No doubt we'll have more from you as the results come through further. More to come on Euronews Tonight. So right now we'll take a short break.
Infrastructure, in fact, a hotel complex that was almost completely destroyed. And as we were speaking to people there, they said that they are in a constant state of shock, Alistair. They say that not only war has gotten that close to them, they're also very much struggling to survive. These are people whose livelihoods depend on tourism, and they are now, instead of preparing for summer and preparing for the arrival of tourists, they are actually clearing up rubble and hoping that the next rocket doesn't fall on them.
Now, you've been meeting with Ukrainian fighters and foreign fighters on the front line. What's the feeling amongst the troops as the war now enters its fourth month?
Well, the soldiers we've been speaking to are in high spirits. I mean, some of them are tired, as you said. It's been almost 3 months, but most of them are determined to continue fighting for as long as it takes and are adamant that victory will be theirs. And that is quite inspiring to some of the foreigners who have, as you said, joined the fight. For example, we met a volunteer, Ben, that's how he asked to be called. He's from Germany. He drove some 2,000 kilometers to be here. Ben has experience in combat. He was in the German military for 10 years, and he came here to help distribute aid, but also to help train some of the Ukrainian troops who didn't have enough experience to go to the battlefield. I asked Ben just how he thought they are faring, these Ukrainian soldiers, and this is what he had to say.
The Ukrainian army against the Russian army, it's the whole Ukrainian country against the Russian army, and that is a big thing. And a lot of them are well trained, but they are on the battlefields. But the units who are staying here, a lot of them are volunteers, old men, young women from all over the world. You see people here, not also from the US, from France, from every country. People come here and try their best. People with good combat experience, people without combat experience, they come and help. And that is a thing that no one could imagine before.
So Ben is one among several foreigners we've been meeting over the last few days. We also met an American citizen, a British citizen, who have all decided to come to Ukraine spontaneously. Some of them are enlisted. Others are simply helping out with aid distribution or helping transfer aid to some of the other parts of the front lines. Most of them say that they are going to be be staying here for as long as it takes, that they couldn't stay back home, sit and watch as this historical moment for Europe, this crucial moment for the future of Europe, unveiled.
Annalise, thanks very much. That's our international correspondent, Annalise Borges in Odessa. Well, meanwhile, EU foreign ministers are trying to get agreement on the next round of sanctions that will crucially contain a ban on Russian oil. But Hungary continues to stand in the way of achieving a unified position. Well, for the latest on this, let's go over to Brussels, where Effie Kutsu-Costa is there for us. Effie, nearly 2 weeks now since the Commission proposed this oil embargo, and yet still a stalemate given Hungary's opposition.
My answer is clearly yes. After 2 weeks that the Commission announced this sixth package of EU sanctions, the package is still on the table and it hasn't been adopted. Why? Because a group of countries don't want to adapt or to get on board for this oil embargo, especially when it comes to Hungary, Slovakia and Czech Republic. Especially Hungary, we can say that its position is really strong, and it remains strong. It's confirmed also by the chief EU diplomat this morning, by Josep Borrell, who said that no breakthrough is expected even today, because of course some countries, namely Hungary, is really holding its position very strong. And I would say that the Commission gave a lot during these 2 weeks to these countries, of course, showing that they understand that Hungary and Slovakia and other countries are really dependent on Russian oil. They need time in order to adapt their infrastructure. They gave them until the end of 2024. It's a lot of time until then, but still they don't accept this proposal. And we heard today the Hungarian foreign minister saying in a Facebook Live that what actually Hungary wants is money, and a lot of money. He said clearly that in order to modernize their infrastructure, they need around 15 to 18 billions of euros. And despite the fact that diplomats want to show optimistic that in the end unity will prevail, Hungary seems to really hold its position and asking for more, even more every day. And we're now expecting for the EU Commission to give a new proposal through the Repower EU scheme this week to see if finally they will find a compromise in the end and adopt this sixth package of EU sanctions against Russia.
Well, this deadlock is causing a lot of frustration amongst other EU countries. What can they do if Budapest persists and will not lift its veto?
Exactly. We heard also some very strong comments this morning, especially by the Lithuanian foreign minister, who said that Hungary is holding the EU as a hostage when it comes to this package of sanctions. The mood is quite the same among many member states in the room. But in reality, there is not much that they can do if they want to adapt the full package, including the oil embargo, because in the end, the EU treaties are saying that when there is a foreign policy decision to be made, there needs to be unanimity. So all the 27 member states have to finally agree on that. Of course, there we go to another debate if we have to skip this rule of unanimity, but there is another debate, a political debate that takes a lot of time. When it comes now to the sixth package of sanctions, there is also this idea of splitting up the package to adopt what can be adopted by unanimity, the further listings of people, but not the oil embargo until a consensus can be found. But there are diplomats, senior EU diplomats, who said that it has to be seen as a package and not split up, and the internal coherence and cohesion of this has to be preserved. So in the end, unanimity needs to be achieved.
Effie Kutsu-Costa in Brussels, thanks very much. Still to come on Euronews tonight, we head to Lebanon, where early election results seem to show major losses for the ruling Hezbollah party.